Bad nose out of party, man. Oh my god.
I'm a fire starter, twisted fire starter.
Forever is the strangest thing. It's shorter than you think. No think.
Is supercharging your standard LS really worth it? In my experience, it is. It is a little bit expensive to start off with, but it gives you a canvas and a base to continue on with your horsepower journey. This was my daily for 5 years. Once I paid it off, like everyone that owns one, I'd love to do this, I'd love to do that. I came to the fork in the road where I decided, was it time to trade it and buy a Ford Ranger or a dual cab, or do I keep it and do my dream? Got in touch with a good friend of mine. I was letting him know, yeah, I'm buying a supercharger, and he said, whoa, stop. I got a mate up at High Torque Performance in Queensland. I'll hook you up, we'll get you sorted. So gave Chris a call from High Torque. He asked for all of my specs of the car, you know, all your VINs and make and model, because there is a few different things in the LS that changes with the kit. Paid for it, and then surprisingly a week, 2 weeks later, I had a box full of supercharger parts, very well set out, ready to go. So this was my journey. I thought there could be hidden costs, and I was right. Up the fuel pump. So the best way to fix that is a VF fuel tank, VFSS fuel tank, and that has the better pump. So Series 1 and Series 2 have the different pumps. You're better off just to get a VF, otherwise you could accidentally get a Series 2 with the Series 1 pump. There is crossover years and it is quite difficult. One of the things you got to do when you do these is you have to dial your harmonic balancer, otherwise they do spin on the crank. This car made 450 horsepower at the tyres on the dyno and 708 Newton meters, I believe, I can remember. The torque on the street is unbelievable. It's actually quite good on fuel down low, and it is a good starter for that horsepower chase. So I've had people come up to me and say, oh, my cammed LS makes 450, 460, let's race. And I'm like, yeah, look, it's all good, bro. We had to down tune this because of my fuel pump. This is tuned just so it drives. The fuel pump let it down big time. We ran out of fuel at 4,000 RPM, 10 PSI, and it made like 408 horsepower. So we had to muck around with it a little bit because you couldn't drive it. It was going to hurt it. So we lowered the boost to 8 pound at 6,100. Mucked around with a little bit of time and not much. We pretty much couldn't even advance it. We couldn't even get it up there just to make the rev range. So 450, 708 Newton meters of torque, and I couldn't be any happier. But this car is detuned. This is like the basement level where all these guys at big cams and whatever LS's, they're pushing their engines. I had to detune this one. So your pros and cons there, it depends on what you want out of your car. For me, I want a horsepower car. I can't afford one straight off, So when I had the money to buy the supercharger kit, I knew that would be the hardest thing to purchase. I'll grab it now and we'll get it tuned. I can still take my partner out on date nights and things like that and still do things like this. So it was worth it to me. Also, the gearbox will need addressing. So these 6-speed autos won't hold the horsepower that it's pretty much got now, let alone what I want in the future. Everything seems to be 10 grand these days. So gearbox conversions, rear end conversions. The supercharger kit, don't quote me, I think it was around about 12, maybe a little bit more. I can't fault it. I can't fault my kit. I still am very happy with the Harrop 2300 supercharger. Just had to move from that spot. It started getting a bit noisy with the helicopters and the planes. Fancy that, noisy planes at an airport. What are you thinking? Anyway, I enjoyed that, getting out, making a bit of content. I hope I can help answer a few questions. Like, if there was something that I felt that somebody needed to know before doing this supercharger conversion or fitting a supercharger to your LS, I would seriously tell you. I didn't have an overly bad experience anywhere. The purchase through High Torque Performance in Queensland was super easy and Chris was super helpful. Fitting the kit, I'm not a mechanic, I've never fitted one before. I took my time, it took a week, but like I said, I had a daily car and this was in the carport. So the kit does come with relocation washer bottle, electric water pump for the inner chiller, for the intercooler, to pump around coolant through the intercooler underneath the supercharger. So I believe that was probably the hardest part, pulling the front bar off to fit them before I put the supercharger on. The supercharger wasn't that hard, so the kit comes with everything. So your new valley plate, pulled the manifold off, put the supercharger on. Sorry, I had to chase up a new belt. Apparently it's pretty common. A lot of LSs have different pulley sizes. They do give you a belt that may fit. It's a generic size belt. I found that I just had to go get another one. And that was it. That was the only thing I had to do for the kit. It came with injectors. It came with everything. Everything was done. Everything was sorted. Not having the fuel pump, they did say it's underneath, this is going to be underneath my discretion, because they got it tuned so I could take my partner on dates and do vlogging and things like that, like I'm doing now. But I can't drag race it. I shouldn't be taking it to Power Cruise, but I did. They told me if I went first, second, third, by the time I got up to the rev range in third, I'll be out of fuel. So the fuel pump is seriously lacking. I still took it to Power Cruise. Best thing was, I drove it to Power Cruise. It's still registered, obviously. So all my mates trailered their cars. I went up for a scrutineer and they looked at me and said, "Did you drive this here?" And I said, "Yeah." They just slapped a sticker on it and off I went. That's an awesome feeling. On a car that holds its own on the track. I can't believe it. I had the best experience. It was a little bit cheeky. I went up there, the only reason I didn't stay on the track, I'd done about 3 or 4 laps, I came in early, purely because this car is now so sentimental to me, and I pussed out. First, second burnouts everywhere. I had a great time. Fries tyres like no tomorrow, but then the adult in me says, patience.
Patience, grasshopper.
Yeah, we'll get it tuned, we'll get the fuel pump done, we'll get the harmonic balancer dyed. Yeah, let's dye it, different colours. Get it dowed, and then we can have some fun. But I just appreciate knowing that this car on its detuned level, basement level, is 450 708. Hey guys, I'm back. Had an awesome morning filming around the Albion Park and Jamboree area. I really hope I answered some questions, and if it's something that you want to do, I'll definitely do it. But that was my experience. I don't see anything wrong with doing what I've done. A lot of people have supercharged or turboed standard LS engines and they just take to it very well. So that was my experience. I hope it helped. I hope everyone has an awesome weekend. And until I do more to this car, stay tuned, because it's going to happen. Peace, guys.